Hello, Podfam, and hello, Rachel. How are you today?
Um, so I'm all right, but I'm also not all right. Do you want to know why?
Sure.
I have to get a full brake job on my car.
No, that's the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah, and they gave me the quote on at least what the front brakes were gonna be, and it was over $500. And I'm like, I'm gonna guess the back are also over $500.
Yeah, if not a little bit more.
Let's not let's let's
Let's
not
not
say
go,
that.
let's not go there.
Let's not say that. So, yeah, how are you though?
I'm good. I mean, I've had a good day. I did some work this
Yeah,
morning.
nice.
I went and had a facial, so I felt like super fancy.
Do you feel like a glazed donut?
A little bit. I'm very glowy, very, very glowy. Um,
Excellent.
so that was lovely. I must say, my favorite thing ever is the hot towel when they
Oh,
wrap it
it's
around
so
your face.
nice.
Oh my god, that is the height of luxury for me.
It's so nice. I haven't had a facial in a while, but I'm having this like visceral memory of that. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a few years for me, like, definitely before COVID, and I just kinda felt like I'm like, "Oh, I just feel like I need someone to go in and clean the past couple years off my face."
Yep.
And, I enjoyed it so much, and because our listeners know I'm kinda stressed about skin, it's one of my number 1 stressors
Mhm.
in life, I booked another
Mhm.
appointment for 4 or 5 weeks from now.
Good.
So even though it's, like, kind of an expense, it's actually not too bad of price, the place that I go.
Mhm.
I really liked the esthetician there. She was really knowledgeable and just, like, listened to me, and that is,
Yeah.
like, a huge thing for me.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm gonna go for the next few months and just see if I can help keep my skin nice and clear. Because she just said, after having to wear masks for the past 2 years, she's just seen, like, the craziest skin conditions pop up, like, in terms of acne,
Mhm.
eczema, rashes, like, our skin is just so irritated that,
Yeah.
she really did a good job. So,
Good.
yes, I'm gonna find some extra money to do that for a little bit.
Well, I mean, you also just deserve the luxury of a facial every 4 weeks.
I try to tell myself that,
Mhm.
My bank account
Treat
says
yourself.
different.
Your heart says yes, your bank account says no.
Yeah, exactly, and what I liked about this one is, when you go to, like, the spa
Yep.
facial places, it's very, like, oils and essential oils and, like, you
Relaxing.
yeah, like, you leave very, very glazed donut, but, like, in a
Mhm.
greasy way,
Yep.
where this she, like, hand selected each product that was going to suit my skin condition. She did a whole skin analysis. She asked, like, "Tell me everything that ever happened to you about your skin."
Mm.
And so I left feeling, like, not even inflamed. I have, like, no redness at all, no
Good.
splotchiness, and everything is just very calm and clear at the
Mhm.
moment. So that is the type of place I wanna keep going for a facial, and that's why I never went for a long
Yeah.
time because I always felt like, "Oh, like, I break out every time I go for a facial."
Mhm.
But for this, like, no, it's just, like, exactly what my skin needed.
That's really great. Because yeah, I've noticed that too when I've done it at, like, spa more like relaxation spa facilities, is it's kinda like they just go through the motions of what they do with everybody.
Yeah, yeah, like, it's not really tailored towards you. Obviously, they ask you if you're, like, allergic to anything, but
Yeah.
it's not customized to, like, what your skin goals are.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
they're not pulling out, like, 6 different products that they don't really use on anybody else just because they would be best for you, you know? They're
yeah,
kinda
exactly.
working with the same amount.
Yeah, like, after we talked, she was just like, "Here, I'm just gonna go run and grab like, you get comfortable, I'm gonna go grab all these products that I think are gonna be good for you."
Mm.
So, that was very nice that after we chatted, she's like, "You know what? This is perfect for you."
Awesome.
Yeah,
I love that for you.
yeah.
So, what are you having to drink this evening?
Well, it's a Friday. We don't
It is a
ever
Friday.
record on Fridays.
No.
So I'm having a beverage, and the beverage I'm having is a Georgian Bay prickly pear tequila smash. Please don't ask me to say that 5 times fast because my, lisp is definitely going to come out.
You had to really focus on that one.
I had to think about each word before saying that. It's a very long title, but the drink is
Mhm.
very good. It's, like, really light and fresh and, not too sweet because I just can't do the sweet drinks anymore.
Neither can I. It just, like no matter what, I will feel like I have a hangover the next day, even if I have like a sip of one of those, just
Oh,
with
yeah,
like the
like,
sugar.
you have more of a sugar hangover than you do an
Yeah,
alcohol hangover.
which is like way worse.
Exactly.
I remember those. I remember those from the Palm Bay days.
Ugh.
Oh,
The Mike's Hard Lemonade.
oh,
The worst was the peach schnapps
yes, yes,
and
that
Sunny
was.
D. Have
Ew.
you never had peach schnapps and Sunny D?
No, I
Oh my
can't say
god.
that I have, but I can imagine that as like a high school through college drink for sure.
That was the one of the first drinks I ever had, peach schnapps and Sunny D. I don't
Love that.
recommend it, people. Like, as a teenager, oh my god, it's the best thing ever.
This is the
Um,
shit.
when your body was able to process sugar, now I think I would have a sip and, like, fall down.
You would be in a sugar coma for
I
a
would.
week.
I would.
You'd be done.
Yeah.
You'd be calling in sick to work like, "Sorry, I can't be here. Why? Sunny D."
Sunny D, guys, Sunny D.
Well,
Yeah.
I also have a beverage,
Excellent.
and it's also from Ontario. It's Inniskillin Winery.
Oh, I've never heard of this one.
Yeah, it's from the Niagara region because, I know things about wines. I don't at all. Don't quote me on anything. And I think it's a Sauvignon Blanc,
Oh,
and
I
it's
love a
delicious.
Sauv.
It's so good. It has a bit more of a dryness to it, so it feels like more of a Pinot, but I'm a fan. I had it at a wedding recently, so when I saw it in the store today, I was like, that was good."
Ah, see, that's a good thing about weddings, you try new things and you don't
Mhm.
realize that you like them. It's great.
Exactly, exactly, and then it just opens up the world because for a while there, I was buying the same bottle of wine every time I went to the store.
Yeah, I
So,
find we fall into that trap where we're like, we know this is good. We don't want to take a risk.
yes, yes. So, anyway, we are not talking about alcohol or
Facials.
facials in this episode. We are actually, talking about auditing your life.
And not in an accounting sense.
No, in more of a where are you currently at and where are you going sense in all
Yes.
aspects of life. So basically, like auditing your life. This is how you can think about it. Basically, you're taking stock of what's been going on over past few months, maybe years, 2 years, etc., where you're at currently and where you want to go. And it's a way to assess your feelings towards, are you on the right track? Do you feel like you are channeling your energy towards things that are going to push you forward, or do you feel like the things you are doing are holding you back? And then it helps you create a game plan from there to then move forward towards your goals.
Exactly. Yeah, like, I have the same interpretation of that, and I think it's very important that every once in a while, we literally just stop, sit with
Mhm.
ourselves, and just look around. We
Yeah.
get so caught up in what we're doing with family, relationships, friends, work,
Mhm.
life in general. We get going so fast that
Yep.
sometimes we get down a road that we didn't even want to be on. So,
Yes.
we're halfway through 2022 right now, and we're coming out of a huge global pandemic that kind of put
Mhm.
everyone's lives on pause and, made us all stop and think about what we wanted. And it really did open doors for some people. And then for
Mhm.
other people, it really derailed them. So
Yeah,
we thought that this would just be a good thing to kind of get into your mind of just taking stock of what is happening in your life right now. You know,
for sure.
get a pen and paper and just do like a little map with you in the center and then branch out each thing that is in your life
Mhm.
and just write down your thoughts on that and like what's good, what's bad.
Yeah, and kind of just circling back to what a point you just had made earlier about winding up on a path that maybe you didn't even really want to be on. And I think it's really important to take stock of where you're at and really determine, is what you're channeling energy towards actually moving you forward? Because I think our culture praises busyness.
Yes.
Like everyone is always bragging about like, "Oh, I'm like not bragging, but you know what I mean." Like everyone's like, "Oh, I'm so busy."
Well,
And it feels
let's
almost like a
let's put it
competition.
yeah, let's put it this way. Just like you said, like we're competing of who is more
Mhm.
tired and who has more stuff on their plate. That is really
Exactly.
sad. Like, that is just
I
sad, people.
know. I know, and the thing is a lot of those times, it's like if you really sit back and look at those things that are keeping you so busy that you don't have any time for yourself really, are they all moving you towards your goals? Because I can take a bet that some of them are not.
Exactly. And I think for the most part, you need to look at things and just be honest and
Mhm.
ask yourself, what is the future potential growth?
Yeah.
And also the benefits. Are you working at something that, it just hasn't gone anywhere for you? You're not happy doing it. It's not paying off.
Mhm.
It's time to kind of be really raw and honest and say, you know what, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And those can be very hard decisions. Like, this is not something that you just take lightly,
Mhm.
but it's that honesty
Yeah.
of just recognizing, this is not getting me where I want to go.
Mhm. And springing off of that a little bit, because I don't know if you found this as well when we were doing some reading about this topic, but a lot of articles and such about auditing your life is very career focused and monetary focused. Everything I read was very entrepreneurial in a sense, which is
Yes.
great. But as we get into this, I want you guys to think about not just is this making my career more successful or is this thing making me any money? It's really digging deep and thinking what actually brings me joy with what I'm doing. Because if it brings you joy, great. Keep going with it. That is a wonderful thing. But if it doesn't, then you're like, okay, time to reassess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And just kind of going back to what I said earlier, where you're going to sit down with that pen and paper and put
Mhm.
yourself in the middle and then branch off of different things in your life.
Mhm.
Think of it as a web.
Yeah.
These things, yes, they're on a different branch, but overall, you're at the center. So all of those things are connected like a web.
Mhm.
And that's where, like, if you see that, yeah, like your career, it's fine. You're paying the bills, you're making money, but
Mhm.
it's taking, 80 hours a week away from your family and your
Mhm.
friends and what you actually want to be doing, then you're stealing away from those other branches of the web, and you kind of need to ask yourself, okay, maybe I need to make an adjustment over here so
Mhm.
I can get what really makes me happy.
For sure. So, a life audit. What does that look like for you? Like what would be an example of a time where you've done this?
I feel like I do this periodically, not
Yeah.
quite quarterly, definitely semi-annually, maybe annually.
Okay.
And I think it more stems from, like, I'm someone whose default is like, I need to look for the next best thing, right? Like,
True.
it's the Aries energy. I'm just like, nope, this doesn't work for me anymore. Cut it. I'm very black and white with
Mhm.
my decisions
Mhm.
sometimes. But I think the last time I had a huge thing, and I know I've talked about this so often, was changing my career. You
Yeah.
know, it was having a negative effect on my finances, my
Mhm.
enjoyment of my life, my relationship, so
Mhm.
many things. Also, my family, like, it was having a huge negative effect on family relationships.
Yep.
And that's when I had to decide, you know what? There is no future here. They literally told me that. Um,
Yeah.
hot topic. Um,
Oh.
we're not going down there.
No, not
Um,
today.
yeah, but for me, that made the answer very easy, right? Like,
Mhm.
I could barely afford my bills at the time, and they're telling me that I'm never going to do better than this.
Yeah.
Well, well, that doesn't work for me. So that was kind of like a huge life audit of me just saying, you know what, I'm not where I want to be in any aspect of my life. I have to
Mhm.
change. I have to change. And
Yeah.
it was honestly a need, not a want. At
Yeah.
that point, like, that's how bad it had gotten. But I don't think you need to wait for a situation like that where it's
Mhm.
like you have to change or else, like, this is all going to fall apart.
Yeah.
I think it's very healthy that you check in with yourself, like, quarterly, you know?
Mhm.
Just do a quick little, like, okay, these things are good, this thing's not so great, I need to work on that. And then, like, I want to try something new. What could that new
Yeah.
thing be? Right? So I think it can just be small things like that. It doesn't always have to be that big, huge thing.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people do need to have that big, huge change. And they just need to, again, be honest with themselves that they need that change.
Yeah, for sure. And I really liked kind of when you mentioned doing it quarterly because I think doing it more frequently than once a year, once every 2 years, et cetera, unless you really need that big life audit, is it helps keep you accountable
Yeah.
to the goals that you've set for yourself. So a perfect example for this is at the beginning of this year, I made a goal sheet and I wrote down a handful of things that I wanted to accomplish. And like there's a couple that I've gone back and throughout the year I'm like, okay, I felt this at the beginning of the year, but I think it's not gonna put me where I want to go. So I would cross it off and replace it with something else. So that's one thing is that it can change. But I think that it helps with, if you write down, I want to start this, and you say that in, I don't know, February, and then you check back in April or May and you look at that and you're like, have I actually done anything to push me towards that? And this doesn't have to be like a plan out how you're going to get there 4 years in the future. So for me, there's a certification that I want to accomplish in my career. And for a long time, I kind of felt a bit frozen with the next step to take. Like I had it on my goal sheet and I was like, I want to go start this, but I didn't know what to do. So I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. That one day I looked at that sheet and I was like, right, that needs to start. Let's start by going to get these courses that I need in order to get there, because that at least is a step forward in the right direction as opposed to just freezing and just kind of getting caught in the like web of my mind that's just spinning things around. So I think it gives a good opportunity for reflection and helping you determine what next step you actually need to do.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it kind of sounds like setting markers,
Yeah.
right? Something I've had to do, there's been a course I wanted to do. I will actually set the date of that final exam
Mhm.
because then I have to do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no
The
backing out.
deadline is coming.
Exactly. So if you kind of struggle with procrastination or just think like, oh, like I want to make a change, but I don't think I can, get that
Mhm.
accountability. It could be with someone else who's going to hold you accountable,
Yeah.
or, depending on the situation, make it set in stone. So
Mhm.
you have to get there. And one thing I really liked that you said at the beginning there with reviewing your goals and accepting, what, I felt like that at this time, but now I don't feel like that. Like,
Mhm.
I don't feel like that resonates with me, or like, I plain just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I think that is very healthy. And I've had times in my life. So I'm kind of a person who I need to sit and think about things before I make a decision.
Mhm.
And it's not that I'm procrastinating on them. Like, I literally need to sit and think about everything and
Mhm.
then I make a decision. Like, I'm like that 24-hour rule kind of girl.
Can confirm.
And I've had people criticize me for that when I was younger
Mhm.
because they demanded an answer. So I gave them an answer. And then, like, a day or two later, a week later, I'd be like, you know what? I changed my mind. I thought about it. I don't agree with that anymore.
Yeah.
And then you get accused of being like, oh, well, you always change your mind. I'm like, you pressured me into answering. So, like, I had to say
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
Um, and just going back with being honest and saying, like, you know what? That doesn't work for me anymore. I think
Mhm.
that is healthy because so many people, I think they set these goals and they're like, I have to do it or else I'm a failure.
Yes.
But in reality, I think that's how people get on roads that they don't want to be on. Would you
Yes.
agree?
I would 100% agree. And I know I've given this example before, but I'm going to maybe add like a different layer to it. But the whole thing of me applying to law school, I at the end decided that I wasn't going to reapply because I didn't feel like it was right for me. And I was so worried when I did that about telling certain people if they were like, "Oh, are you going to reapply?" I'd be like, "No, I'm not," because I had kind of set that goal for myself and gone around and told people I was going to do it,
Hmm.
right? So I felt I felt kind of paralyzed. Like I felt like if I didn't do it, people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're flaky," or "Oh, like you set your mind to something and you don't follow through." And like I learned from that experience, it's like, no, that's not the way I am. I set out and I did what I wanted to do. I wanted the experience of applying. And in the end, I realized like I need to be elsewhere. I need to channel my energy elsewhere. And the thing is I think my fear was about external judgment.
Mhm.
And really, like, if you moving forward with what's right for your life causes the people in your life to judge you, then we've said it a lot, but maybe reassess those situations. Because if you're moving forward in a way that you truly feel is best for you and is going to make you happy, your biggest supporters should be cheering you on, you
Yes,
know?
absolutely. I totally agree with that. And yeah, like I definitely have felt that fear and judgment before. And this is why sometimes I don't always share what's in my mind
Yeah.
and what my plans are.
Mhm.
So that, if I need to be held accountable by someone, that's not really an option. But that was a way for me to avoid the negative
Mhm.
judgment.
See,
Um,
that always really inspired me
yeah.
because I just like you can kind of like mull things over in your brain and like figure out which way you're gonna go, and maybe you like talk to like a couple people about it.
Yeah,
Where
I
I
hold my
definitely went
cards
through
very close though.
You
Like,
do.
yeah.
Where I like went through a phase where like I would need to like talk to everyone about it.
Yeah, you needed everyone's opinion and to be like, "Okay, I'll do it," because everyone thinks I should do it.
Yes. So when I always really admired you for that because I'm just like, that's smart. So I've been trying to emulate that as I move through life now.
Yeah, and that's just kind of I'm just having, like, a visceral flashback right now of, times where things have been wrong, and I'll have already dealt with the thing yet,
Yeah.
and then I would tell you, and you're like, "Oh my god, that's terrible. How can I help?" I'm like, "Oh, I already fixed it. It's fine." Um, you're like,
See,
"What?
but
How did you sit on that?"
the thing is I always know that I
Yeah,
always know that something is going on
yeah,
because you
yeah.
just get very quiet, but I've come to know I'm just like, she'll tell me later.
She'll tell me once she's fixed it.
It's like if she really needs advice, she'll reach out.
Exactly, and that's,
Yeah.
like I don't know if that's a learned behavior or just how I am, so I'm sorry I can't give any advice to that on how I became like that, but I think sometimes it is that fear of judgment of your peers,
Mhm.
and so I was just like, "Well, they can't judge me if they don't know what I'm doing."
Yep,
That's
yep.
probably toxic in some way, I don't know. That's probably not great advice, but, you know, we aren't professionals here, this is just life experience.
Yep, yep. You know, we're learning. We learn as we go, guys, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
It's alright. I mean, I admire it, so you're, like, on top of your shit.
Exactly, exactly, I try to
Yeah.
be. Moving on though. So,
Mhm.
we're kinda talking about realizing what is no longer serving you.
Yes.
And I don't think that this is a black and white decision for most people. I think this can be very gray because not everything that you do is like, how do I want to phrase this? Um, Vital, super important, like
Mhm.
has a huge effect on the outcome of your life or situations.
Yep.
And I think it's more just acknowledging if you are okay with this or not.
Yeah.
Like, if it's
Yeah.
not drawing on energy or things from other things that are important for you. I'm trying to think of an example, and the only thing I can think of is just, like, you eat a bag of chips every week. Um,
Yeah.
I'm just going with that. I'm sorry, it's a really stupid example, but it's just the most, like, generic thing I can think of at the
I
moment.
mean, relatable, so
Yeah, super
yeah.
relatable.
Super
Um,
relatable.
and I think that's important to acknowledge that a thing in your life and just say, like, "You know what? It's not having a negative effect on anything, but I'm acknowledging that
Mhm.
it's not helping me reach my goals," right? Like,
Yeah.
it just is, and I think that's important because going back to what we were saying about, like, our culture prizes busyness,
Yeah.
and it's just like, not everything has to be about growth. Like, You
Mhm.
don't have to want to be the best at everything, right? Like, it's
Yes.
okay just to be. Like, for me,
Mhm.
let's say I love to doodle. I am by no means an artist. I am, like, the person who draws questionable stick figures, but if
You
that's
got the
something that
sun
just
with the smiley face in the middle.
I do. In the corner of the page, um, with the wavy rays.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I still draw suns like I did how I did when I was 5. Um,
Love that for you.
and, that can just be a thing in my life that can just be, right? Like, I don't need to go out and seek art lessons or practice every day, and
Mhm.
that's fine. But, like, I'm acknowledging, I'm never gonna be the next Picasso,
Yes.
and that's fine. It's fine. I think you there is room to do things for the enjoyment of it, even
Mhm.
if you have no plans on it leading anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I wanna touch a bit on relationships here,
Okay.
which this might be, like, spicy. I do really like what you're saying where, like, sometimes you just do things because they make you happy. It doesn't always have to be about growth.
Mhm.
But sometimes, especially when we're younger, we have a lot of relationships where I've had to step back sometimes and look at them and been like, am I extending a significant amount of energy to a person who is giving me nothing back? Or is it a one sided friendship or relationship or something? And that can be like a really, this is probably like, because when we talk about life auditing, we can really talk about relationships, fitness, work, all of this stuff. And I've had to have those really serious overhauls with myself. And it's not like I like would be like, "Oh, this person like ghost them." I would never do that. But it's a shifting of energy where it's like, okay, is there somebody in my life that I'm giving all my energy to who's not giving me anything back? And it's taking energy away from me and I feel bad. Is there energy that I can bring back to myself and extend to the things that I like to do or extend to people who support me? And I feel like we have a really great equal relationship. And that's okay to do too. Sometimes this does involve really putting a microscope on some of your relationships and determining like, am I kind of being treated the way that I want to be treated? And is this friendship serving me or is it hindering me? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and I just wanna emphasize my point that,
Okay.
that I think a relationship and
Hmm.
anything that draws on your energy,
Yes,
that needs to be audited. Like, that's not
exactly.
something that you should just be fine with,
Hmm.
like, "Oh, it's not great, but it's fine." No, like, relationships, those are very important, right? Like, that
Yes.
is, a huge part of people's lives, and I think that has an effect on all your other branches that we're talking about.
Hmm.
Um, so yes, don't just be okay with relationships that do not serve you. That is
Yes.
something that I'm gonna put on the black and white list, not so
Hmm.
much the gray list.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yes. No, I'm talking about very, like, basic mundane things that,
Oh
like,
no, for
do not
sure.
take up
Yeah.
your time. So, I don't want anyone to get confused with that.
Oh yeah. No, no.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just I wanted to like jump off of it.
Okay, perfect. Well,
Yes.
I'm gonna jump off your point here,
Excellent.
because it's very much the same of learning to say no, and
This is a hard one. I'm so bad at this.
it's so hard. I am better than what I used to be, but, like, one of my fundamental what were they called? Um,
Saboteurs?
saboteurs, yes,
Yes.
was people pleaser. People pleaser came in, like, number 3 for me, and
Mhm.
I am very aware that I have this problem. I have always had this problem.
Yep.
It's just how us girls are raised to be. I think a majority of women are people pleasers, especially
Mhm.
of our age group. And, the hardest thing is learning to say no, to not waste your time on things that don't matter.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard. This goes back to I'd say relationships are probably the hardest because, you have friendships, you have romantic relationships, you have family relationships, and all of these things are very important to you. And you want to be there for these people because there
Mhm.
is love and respect. But this isn't always like a negative relationship. Like, we're not talking about the ones that aren't serving you. These are the ones that are
Mhm.
balanced and serving you. but you still
Yeah.
need to have your boundary. If
Mhm.
you're that friend who is constantly dropping everything you have going on in your life to go help your friend move over
Mhm.
like a day,
Mhm.
or you're always having to go do things for them, and it's
Mhm.
taking away from the aspects of your life and having a negative effect on your energy, got to learn how to say no. And it's hard. Like, it's not an easy thing to do,
No.
but you have to be respectful of your own time. Like, you got to respect yourself.
And sometimes that's just the thing that you are saying no to them for is, like, just resting.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
If there's something that somebody wants to go and do with you and you really feel like you're like, "Okay, I need to just be in my own energy and relax today or for this weekend or something," you can say no
Yeah, and
because that's more important
exactly.
for
And I
you.
think it's important to have this communication with these people,
Yeah.
because I'm going to use the example of, like, you plan to all go out for dinner like a week from now.
Mhm.
And maybe when you made those plans, you were super excited to do that.
Mhm.
And then you get to the day before or the day of that day you're supposed to go for dinner, and you're like, "Oh, I don't want to go. I really don't want to go."
Yeah.
We've all been there. We have all been there. And that is, honoring yourself and just
Mhm.
being like, you know what, guys, like, I am not in the mood for this. I know I have done this to you guys all the time. I'll be like, guys, I was in a great, like, extrovert mood yesterday. Today, introvert Laura is here.
Mhm.
She doesn't want to talk to people.
She wants to read Bridgerton.
Yeah, she is sorry, but it's just not happening. And if I come, I'm going to be like a little rainy storm cloud, and I don't want to bring down the vibe. And
Yes.
it took a while to get there because, you know, I found that after I was honest about that kind of stuff, like, my friends would then in turn be like the same thing to me. They were like, you know what, Laura, we were feeling the plan earlier. Now, not so much.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's okay. I respect that, because this goes back to a huge lesson that I know you and I learned about bringing our best selves forward.
Mhm.
And I think this relates to when maybe your friend has like an issue going on and they really want to talk to you about it. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, I need you. Like, I just gotta, dump all this and talk it out. And the hardest thing, but the best thing, is being like, hey, you know what? I'm not in a great headspace for this today,
Mhm.
but I want to talk to you about this. I want to give you my full undivided attention. And right now I cannot do that.
Yes.
I remember having to say that for the first time, and it was so hard. But
Mhm.
I know to my one friend I said this to, she in turn said, thank you for saying that, because I want to talk this through with you, but,
Mhm.
like, I also want you, like, to be all there and ready to receive it. And
Mhm.
in turn, I know I've asked you and other friends being like, "Hey, I gotta talk this out. Are you in a good headspace to hear this?" And, like, sometimes the answer is no, and I'm like, "Okay, I'll
Mhm.
go tell someone else," or, like, "Let me know when you're ready." And I think that's
Mhm.
just so respectful. And then, sorry, going back to auditing your life, it's maintaining those friendships that have that.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's working toward, like, that to me is growth. Like, I'm not, like,
Mhm.
getting rid of all my old friends. I mean, like, I'm gonna get friends who accept that about me, that
Mhm.
I'm not always very social. No, it's working together to grow and be like, "Hey, let's be open and communicative of when
Mhm.
we actually want to talk to each other about heavy things."
It's developing a friendship and, well, developing a relationship with another person where you're mutually honoring and respecting each other.
Yeah.
And that just comes down to communication. It doesn't have to be like a complete overhaul and be like, get all new friends. But it's also, important if you start putting those boundaries in place, is somebody not respecting them?
Huge.
Huge. And that is, it's hard. But I think we've talked about this before. You and I have both had that experience where we've had to kind of like take a step back because our boundaries were being stepped over by somebody
Obliterated
and
by other people, and we're
obliterated,
like, "No,
completely
that's not
obliterated.
okay. That is not okay." And I feel like I've never had big friend groups, but I have definitely knowingly cut people out of my life, and not in a cruel
Mhm.
way. Like, I'm not, you know, burning bridges,
Yeah.
but just acknowledging and knowing that, okay, you know what? I need to step away because, like, every time this person comes to me, it's always a problem.
Mhm.
And I just feel like they dump their energy on me. And some people, like, okay, this is a little woo woo, but I feel like a lot of people will kind of know what we're talking about. Is like, there's just some people who they're energy stealers, yet also energy
Yes.
dumpers. So either they
Mhm.
steal all your energy and you're absolutely like wiped when you're done talking to them, or they
Mhm.
kind of just like, they're very loose with their energy and they pile it all on top of you. And then you're like, God, I'm so heavy. And
Or they just do both at the same time.
yeah, most people just they just do both of it at the same time because they have, like,
Yeah.
no control of it, and I don't
Mhm.
know if that's, like, a metaphysical thing or, like, I don't know. I don't know, but, um, the older I've gotten and the more, like, experience I have with different people, I
Mhm.
very quickly know I'm just like, okay, I need to keep you at arm's length because I know if I
Mhm.
let you in my space, you're gonna take over my space, and,
Yeah.
like, I can't do that, like, I panic, I'm like the little turtle in the shell, that's what happens to me.
I feel ya. I feel ya.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to like go to this learning to say no from another angle that kind of goes more into work and
Ugh,
even like
so glad
volunteering,
you're going there.
I think. Because, okay, there have been times where I've had to work two jobs to make enough money. Like, I'm going to put that out there. There have been times where I had to do it
Mhm,
and I acknowledge that. But I've had experiences where, like I'm in a good spot and I've decided to take on another job, whether it's like an actual, like, they pay me for it or it's volunteering or whatever, because I feel like I feel kind of like I'm emotionally obligated to,
mhm.
because whether it's somebody I care for is asking me or whatever, and I somehow just find myself there. Or I'm just like, because our culture loves busyness, I'm just like, ooh, let's just add one more thing to the pile because
I have
why
a
not?
I have a free hour in the day, sure, I'll work.
Yeah. And that's kind of part of a big overhaul that I had to do earlier this year, where I had to be really harsh with myself and be like, this second kind of like income that I'm doing right now, like, I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. It's very social for me and stuff, but what is it actually doing for me? Like, what am I what is coming to me from this? Like, how is this moving me forward?
Yeah,
Or is it just taking from me?
yeah,
And in reality, like, after I looked at all of it, like, I kind of looked at what I made from it. I looked at how my energy was every day when I came back. Like, I looked at how I looked at what the trajectory forward would be, like, how would this unfold if I kept doing it? And I was like, "You know what? I love it, but, like, it's time it has run its course." And that was like a very hard decision for me to kind of come to, but I was just like, I need to, like, if I'm going to have something else that is taking up my time that is for me, and like, self-care or just going on a hike or hanging out with friends or hanging out with a boyfriend, like, if I'm going to give up that precious time that I have, I want it to be for something that I feel like is propelling me forward,
yeah.
and not just kind of, I don't, just not feeling like it's just taking and just depleting me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely relate to this. And I think for me, like, definitely in my early 20s, as we as all our listeners know, I was the queen of the hustle. Um,
Mhm.
I had a dollar amount for every hour I was awake.
You monetized your sleeping, man. Like,
Yes, yes, I did
I
monetize
can't get
my
over
sleeping
that.
like that. That's a fucking art. Um,
That was.
I don't
I
do that
remember.
anymore. People are
No,
gonna be
I
like,
just
"What?" Questionable activities.
I think there was a period there where you were house sitting where I think you went to your actual house maybe once a week.
Once a month. There was one time I was not home for an entire month, and
Mhm.
the thing was, like, I was addicted to making money, you know?
Mm.
house sitting was that for me. I loved it, like, it was great. Such a good way to make cash, but the thing is on top of that, I was doing everything else in my life. I was working my full-time job. I think I also had, like, a serving job because also serving is, like, um it's fun. I always loved serving, and it's such a good way to make cash in a relatively short amount of time.
Mhm.
Um, but again, I was just like, "Where do I have ti" I didn't even know who I was. I didn't even know what I wanted in life because I was literally so busy all the time, and, like, relationships suffered, everything suffered because, like, people didn't see me. I was just working every hour of the day.
Well, for example, like us making plans at this time, I remember one summer, it would be like, "Do you have an hour or an hour and a half at 9:30 AM on Thursday? Let's meet up."
I can schedule you for a 30-minute coffee. Yeah.
So, yeah, that was
Yeah,
a time.
it was a time, and I think for me, like, serving was as much as I loved it, it was super toxic for me as well,
Mhm,
because, anyone who's served, like, frick, you work hard, like, that it can be a lot of fun, but it's a lot of hard work, and I would say serving's almost like a lifestyle
mhm.
where you just kinda get caught up and, I was working at a bar, so it would be late nights, and
And also
I'm
talk about being exposed to a lot of people's energy,
oh god, yeah, like,
like, every night.
everyone has to tell you their problem, or you get a Karen, she's unhappy with you, like, I had my fair share of those, and, like, I would just feel, like, shaken up to the core
Mhm,
from those experiences, and, I'm not someone who really ever sleeps in, but, like, when I wasn't getting home until after midnight, I'd be all wired, and then I'd try to go to sleep, and I'd still get up at 7 o'clock in the morning because the sun was out,
mhm.
and I just
So then you're getting, like, 3 hours of sleep.
oh, I just, like I was really just a shell of a person, and it was fine when I was in my early 20s, but, like, now at 30, I'm just like, "Oh my god, you want me to do more work than, like, I already do? No, thank you."
Mhm.
So that was a huge lesson for me, and I've gone through like, even now, I go through periods of time where I'm just like, what if I just had, like, 1 day a week I could serve just to, like, make some extra cash?"
I have
And I'm
that
like,
thought, like, every week.
every week, and honestly, it's just because the world is, like, super expensive right now, I'm like, "Oh god, um, I need
Yeah, 6
buffers."
months ago, we weren't having this thought.
No, I was not having this thought before, like, gas was, over $2 and it cost over $100 to fill up my little car.
I saw
Um
198 today.
Oh my god, what a good
I
price, like, that's how
know.
sad it is right now, like, if gas is under $2, we're like, "Wow, what a deal." Um, that's just sad,
It
and
is.
that's where I've had to stop myself and being like, "Laura, when are you actually gonna have time to work your full-time job and do everything else that you do in your life, and also serve
Mhm.
on top of that?" Like, no, we're not going back there, and,
No.
it's a trap, like, that is such a big trap for me because, like, I was just so used to always being busy that for
Mhm.
me, it was almost like a normal state, that when
Yeah.
I did take a rest, I was, like, freaking out because 'cause I'm just like, "Oh my god, I'm not being productive. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do?" And again, society praises that,
Mhm.
um, and it's been hard to learn, but I have learned. So, doesn't mean I
I
don't
mean
have little side incomes, but I don't have anything that's, like, ultra time consuming, and
but
that
I
works
mean,
for
like,
me.
could you imagine adding, like, serving on the weekends
Oh
with
god.
how much, like, kind of mental attention you need to put into into your full-time job? That would be rough.
I'd be back to, like, not being even a shell of a person. To finish up that point, look at where you can do less to avoid burnout because rest breaks are good, and I think that is an important factor that you need to include in your audit of
Mhm.
your life.
Mhm. 100% agree. And I think, like, I really wanna go back to this point and really drive it home because I know we talked about it a little bit, but the thing with a life audit is that it helps you determine, like, do I stay the course on things that I'm doing,
Mm,
or
mhm.
do I want something different? Has
Yes.
my perspective changed?
Yep.
And if it has, like, I know we've said this, but I really wanna drive it home, that's okay.
Mhm.
You are not, like, held to the thoughts of your past.
Yes.
You don't have to if you thought that you wanted to be, like, I don't know, stupid example, but if you thought you wanted to be an astronaut when you were a kid, and then you get to university, and I don't know how astronauts become astronauts, but you're like, I really don't like this, and I would rather go study, like, English or something. If that's what makes you happy, that's fine. Go do that. You don't have to go become an astronaut. It's all right.
Yeah.
So, because I think I get kind of funky when I think about topics around like goals and like goal setting and all of this stuff, because sometimes the advice feels very rigid, and you always have to be taking that next step and all of that, and it doesn't leave room for potentially that next step being stopping
Mhm.
and doing something else. And that's the thing, is there is no set trajectory for your life, and there is no set path of what you have to be. If you want to reinvent yourself or move to a different country or all these things, go do that. And that has been a successful life audit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think, you're allowed to change, and that's okay,
Mhm.
but equally, you're allowed to stay the course, and that's okay too.
For sure.
It's not about doing a life audit and being like, "There's nothing I don't wanna change." Hey, if there's nothing you wanna change, good for you, like, that is awesome.
I love
Um,
that for
and if
you.
there's things that aren't aligning with you and you wanna change, good for
Mhm.
you. You are recognizing that that doesn't work for you. That's already step 1 complete. Right?
Mhm.
So, to finish up my points here, I think it's also important to kinda think about your web again with all your branches of things and get an estimate of how much time you're spending on different areas.
Mm.
And I think the important thing is it doesn't have to all be equal. You
Yes.
almost need to rank what is most important to you. Is that your career? Is that your
Mhm.
children? Is that your friends or your relationship? Is that your hobbies? Um, Sports? Whatever. There is no right answer.
Mhm.
It's very personal to you on how you rank that.
Mhm.
And I think it's just kind of seeing like, hey, you know what? Spending a lot of time on this one thing. Didn't realize I was spending so much time on it. And it's not even like in my top three. I need to change that. So I think like that's just another thing to help you think about like, wow, this is actually where all my time goes. That's a problem.
Mhm.
I don't like that.
For sure. And kind of like a little throwback to our work-life balance episode, that can change. You
Yes,
know,
it can.
maybe at this period of time, you're like, I want to focus on work.
Yeah.
So I'm going to focus less on like fitness or something. I'm not going to be as focused on getting through like my gym program. That's fine. Maybe 6 months go by and you're like, all right, we've accomplished a lot with work. I kind of feel the need to get back into my fitness routine like really hard, like I was before. All right, let's reassess.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to those quarterly check-ins, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
just see like, hey, is work still my number one?
Mm-hmm.
Or now am I like, engaged and getting married? So you know what? That relationship and my wedding is super important.
Yes,
So I think
exactly.
it's fine to change. It's fine to change. Do not let people criticize you for that because that haunted me for years and
Mm-hmm.
it just was not fair. It really was not fair to me for people being like, "Hey, why do you always change your mind?" I'm like, "Actually, I'm not. I'm just a really slow, like, methodical decision maker, and I don't like to
Mm-hmm.
be rushed because then I will make a mistake." So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that mildly went off topic there, but that's just my philosophy on how I audit my life and my decisions.
I love it. See, there you go, guys. I think it sums it up perfectly.
Excellent.
I think we left it in a
Excellent.
good spot. I think that's a great place to leave
Awesome.
it.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have for today's episode on auditing your life. If you found it helpful, please let us know by sending us an email to teawithlaurarachele@gmail.com. Also, share it with friends, family, or anyone you think would find this helpful. And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, always check out our other episodes. We have over 60 now.
Oh my
So
God.
lots of listening content, and we don't want to be biased, but we think it's all pretty great. And Rachel, you want to let us know where they can find our podcast?
Yeah, so you can find us on all the podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And we would 100% really appreciate it if you feel so inclined to leave us a 5-star review. So I think that's everything for tonight.
Live like tea.
Live like tea.